I'm not pulling out of the driveway. We all know what that means. It's time for another Drive to Work, Coronavirus Edition. Okay, so last time I started talking about all the color-shifted cards from Planar Chaos. I'm going through all of them. So there are 45 in total. Last time I did 18. This time I'm going to do 27. And I'm going to go through all of them and talk about sort of how we shifted them and talk a little bit about how we shifted the color pie in Planar Chaos and how we were experimenting with maybe where we could shift things. Okay, so we're going to start with Bog Serpent. 5 and a black for a 5/5. It's a serpent. Bog Serpent can attack unless defending player controls a swamp. When you control no swamp, sacrifice Bog Serpent. Okay, so this was the card Sea Serpent from Alpha. It's a blue card in Alpha. We changed the word island to swamp, but other than that, the card's identical. So I think we were just playing around with the idea of, in Alpha, we had done what we call Island Home, which were creatures that lived in the water. And the idea is, well, I can't attack unless you have an island, and I can't be around unless I have an island. We've since moved away from my own home. We don't do Island Home anymore. But the idea, the thought was, maybe it'd be fun to just change it up a little bit and do a Swamp Home card. Okay, next, Damnation. 2 black, sorcery. Destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. This was probably the most popular card from the set. So Damnation is Wrath of God from Alpha, but Wrath of God was white. This is black. And the idea is, well, white's good at killing creatures. You know who else is good at killing creatures? Black is good at killing creatures. And so normally white is the number one card of mass creature kill. But black is king of killing things. So it is something black can do. The cute story about this card is the way we introduced the set, the way we did the first day of previews on the site, is you came to the site and then just a giant Wrath of card came up and the card turned into Damnation. And that was just how you were introduced to the color shiftedness of Planar Chaos. Okay, next, Dune Rider Outlaw. Black, protection from green. At end of turn, if Dune Rider Outlaw deals damage to an opponent this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So Dune Rider Outlaw is Whirling Dervish from Legends, I believe. Is it Legends, is that right? Yes, it is originally from Legends. So Whirling Dervish was a green card, and it said protection from black. So the only thing this card did is it mirrored it. So this card is just like it. The reason we did it is the Slith ability is something that getting +1 counters when you damage the opponent is something we've done in multiple colors. We said, there's a little bit of like, I hurt you and get power from hurting you that felt black to us. So we shifted that from green into black. Okay, next, Core Dirge. 2 and a black, instant. All damage that we dealt this turn to target creature you control by a source of your choice is dealt to another creature instead. So Core Dirge is Core Chant, which I think is from, it's from Tempest Block. But where is it from specifically? It's from Stronghold. Or no, it's from Exodus. So the reason I knew, so the core was so when Volrath made the Plane of Wrath, or with help from the Phyrexians, they pulled in creatures from other planes to populate it. One of the creatures they pulled were the core, which we now know are from Zendikar, and that's where we first met the core. Anyway, Core Chant is a damage redirection spell. But the idea in this set is, well, if we're going to change redirection, what if it was a black thing? What is, you went to hurt me, but you hurt yourself instead, right? Like you could flavor that as a black thing. And so we moved it into black. Okay, next, Melancholy. 2 and a black for an aura enchantment. Enchant creature. When Melancholy comes into play, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its control's untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Melancholy unless you pay black. So Melancholy was Thirst. So Thirst is a blue card. First seen in Mirage. And so Thirst is... so blue does locking down. And the idea is it taps the creature and it locks it down. Back in the day, we used to make you pay to continue to lock it down. Kind of like, Stasis and Cumulative Upkeep. There's a lot of stuff in blue that kind of you had to pay to keep it. But nowadays, we just let you tap it and... we don't make you pay to untap it. But anyway, in this version, we shifted the locking things down from a blue thing into a black thing flavored as depression. The idea is the reason you don't untap is you just don't feel like it. You just, black uses sadness in different ways, and the idea of making you so sad that you just don't want to do anything. We thought that was an interesting flavor. Okay, yeah, next, Null Profusion. 4 black, enchantment. Skip your draw step. Whenever you would play a card, draw a card. Your maximum hand size is 2. So, Null Profusion is recycle, a green card from Tempest. It was always weird. This was a weird card in green. The idea of limiting what you can draw, but then giving you extra cards really felt kind of like a deal with the devil. So we moved into black, the color that made more sense for that to be. Okay, next, Wrathy Trapper, 1 and a black. 1/2, creature, human, rebel, rogue. Black and tap target creature. So Wrathy Trapper is Benalish Trapper. Benalish Trapper is from, I want to say, what's that Benalish Trapper from? Let's see, it's from Invasion. So first showed up Invasion. So in this set, tapping things, we made black the king of tapping. So not untapping and tapping things we put into black. And so we like the idea of the black is using disease, that like it would weaken you to cripple you, and then it would either weaken you or use depression or different things to keep you from wanting to untap. Okay, next, Shrouded Lore. Sorcery. Target opponent chooses a card in your graveyard. You may pay black. If you do, repeat this process, except that opponent can't choose a card already chosen for Shrouded Lore. Then put the last card into your hand. So Shrouded Lore is Forgotten Lore. So Forgotten Lore is from Ice Age. It's kind of a weird card. I mean, it made sense in green in that green and black are the 2 graveyard colors. So I guess this is more, it's not that we were moving it. Black and green were graveyard colors. We just moved it from green to black since that's the other graveyard color. So this is more of one of us experimenting with existing color pie, not really doing new color pie. Okay, next up, Vampiric Link. Enchant aura, enchant creature. Whenever enchant creature deals damage, you gain that much life. Okay, so Vampiric Link is Spirit Link was from Legends, in white. It was a white card in Legends. So this is another one where we could, Spirit Link was the inspiration for, well, I don't know if it's the right word. There was a black card in Arabian Nights that did what Lifelink does. But then in Legends, 2 sets later, there was a white aura that granted something like, not exactly lifelink, because if you put it on your opponent's creatures, you still gain the life. But anyway, the popularity of of Spirit Link really is what got us to eventually make lifelink. I mean, I admit black had it first. But when we when we keyworded it, we decided to make it a black and white thing. That's the 2 colors that had done it. In black, it's more of a draining thing. In white, it's more of a life. Black is more like I'm draining life out of you, and white is more like I'm gaining life for the joy of doing a good work and stuff. And anyway, this card, like the ability could make sense in white or black. So this is a good example where we took a famous card that people liked in white and just put it into black. Okay, we move on to red. Okay, first up is Blood Knight, red. Creature, human knight, first strike, protection from white. 2/2. So Blood Knight is Black Knight. From Alpha, Black Knight is the black card, obviously. So Black Knight, it actually has the exact same text. I mean, this card's red and costs red rather than black. But it also is first strike and also has protection from white because it too is the enemy of white. So one of the cool things is black really isn't a first strike color. I mean, it's like tertiary and first strike, but or secondary. I don't know. We put it on knights. We put it on knights occasionally. So white and red are primary, black secondary, I guess you would say. But red is primary. So like, oh, well, what if we took this idea of a knight and put it in red? The flavor of a knight, obviously we've done knights in red and stuff like Eldraine, but the flavor of a knight's more black and white. But like, well, we can make a red flavored knight. And if we did that, this card could make perfect sense in red. Also, red tends to do a little more weenie creatures and tends to, like, it's more the first strike color. Red gets protection from its enemy color. So, anyway, the whole package sort of worked. Okay, next is Brute Force. Instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Well, Brute Force is Giant Growth from Alpha. So, Giant Growth is a green card. In this world, we shifted Giant Growth effects and pumping, like, into red. This is the reason this card is red. Is this was what red did this. We're like, yeah, well, red's all about impulsivity and short term, and well, what if it gets strong but just temporarily? So we flavored like, oh, that could make some sense in red. Next, Molten Firebird. So 4 and a red for a Phoenix, 2/2, flying. When Molten Firebird is put into a graveyard from play, return to play under its owner's control at end of turn, and skip your next draw step. 4 and red, remove Molten Firebird from the game. So Molten Firebird is Ivory Gargoyle. So Ivory Gargoyle is from Legends. Is that right, from Legends? Alliances, sorry. It's from Alliances. It's a little weird. Well, White for a little while played around with this, like, skipping draw step stuff, but it was always kind of a little bit weird for White. The idea, though, of a so it comes back from the graveyard, right? And so the flavor we liked is, well, red specifically has a creature type that comes back from the graveyard, which is Phoenix is. And it flies, but it's a small flyer. So it made a lot of sense as a Phoenix. So we shifted over red and then made it a Phoenix. We thought that was cool. Okay, next, Prodigal Pyromancer. 2 and a red for a 1/1 human wizard. Tap Prodigal Pyromancer. Deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So this is Prodigal Sorcerer from Alpha. It's a blue card in Alpha. Well, tapping to do damage really isn't blue. Early Magic did a little bit of tiny blue direct damage, but we've since completely moved it out of blue. And so this is a perfect example of this card should just be a red card. We made it a red card. And now that we made a red card and then we printed another set. So this was us saying it's not blue, it should be red. We'll just do it here because it fits the theme, but then we can just use it. So we made it red on purpose, knowing that we would instantly be able to use it, and then we started putting in core sets. So Prodigal Pyromancer still shows up in core sets from time to time. Not at common anymore, but just because we've moved those kind of effects up to uncommon. But okay, next, Pyrohemia. So Pyrohemia is 2 red, an enchantment. At end of turn, if no creatures are in play, sacrifice Pyrohemia. Red, Pyrohemia deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. So Pyrohemia is better known as Pestilence. So Pestilence is a classic old Magic card that first showed up in Alpha. I think the idea here was, it made some sense in black. The idea is it's disease, but red also is king of direct damage. Well, what if we put it in red? And this actually was a pretty cool card in red. I think we made it uncommon. For some reason, Pestilence was really common. And then we reprinted in Urza Saga as common for some reason, which was crazy. But, so we did this one uncommon. And the flavor is, instead of playing with disease, you're playing with fire. You're burning people, which makes sense in red. Okay, next, Reckless Worm. So Reckless Worm is 3 red for 4/4. It's a worm. It's got Trample, and it's got Madness 2 and a red. So Madness, if you don't know, is if you discard this card, you may pay it for its Madness cost instead of putting it into your graveyard. So Reckless Worm is Arrogant Worm from Odyssey. This is all... Yeah, it's just color shifted. Arrogant Worm is a worm. This stayed a worm. We don't normally, by the way, do worms in red. We do dragons in red all the time. But we don't tend to do worms. Worms are usually a green thing. We color shifted here. But I think the idea here is, well, maybe the alternate color. Like, we did do a little bit of color shifting of creative. So like maybe worms, worms are big, and hey, dragons are a red thing. Well, maybe worms could be a red thing. Once again, notice Madness is here. Time Spiral block was very willy-nilly in just using whatever old mechanic we wanted. if you enjoy stuff like that, Modern Horizons is us kind of recapturing this flavor of it's a supplemental set that's more for advanced players. That look, we're just going to do a lot of mechanics, and if you're intimidated by lots of mechanics, okay, not the set for you. And but there's an audience that really enjoys that, and so we now do that in Modern Horizons. We once did it in a core set, and it's kind of crazy that we did. Thinking back, it is kind of crazy. Okay, next, Shivan Wumpus. Shivan Wumpus is 3 in a red for 6/6 beast. It's got trample. When Shivan Wumpus comes into play, any player may sacrifice a land. If a player does, put Shivan Wumpus on top of its owner's library. Okay, so Shivan Wumpus is Argothian Wumpus from, I think, Urza Saga. Argothian... Is that right? Argothian what? Argothian... Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back here. Shivan Wumpus. Oh, it's Argothian Worm. So I don't know why it wasn't a worm. We did a red worm. Maybe we just done a red worm. Reckless Worm's a worm. So I'm not sure what we made it a beast and not a worm. Is that right? Wait. Oh, I see. Okay, so sorry. Argothian Worm said, when Argothian Worm comes into play, or enters the battlefield, any player may sacrifice a land, and if you do, put Argothian Worm on top of its owner's library. And this card says... No, it's the same. It's the same card. Okay, so Shivan Wumpus is just Argothian Worm from Urza Saga. I don't think much... the creature type changed, but other than that, nothing changed about it. Okay, next, Simian Spirit Guide. 2 in a red for a 2/2 ape spirit. Remove Simian Spirit Guide in your hand from the game. So you exile. This is back when before exile was the term. Add red to your mana pool. So this is Elvish Spirit Guide, which is from, I think, Alliances, I believe. I believe that's right. So this is it's funny. I get asked about this all the time. Yeah, it was from Alliances. Because this allows you to get mana. So the idea was green is the color of mana, but usually slower mana, where red is like permanent mana, and red is temporary mana. We're like, well, red is temporary mana, and that's more of a red thing than it was a green thing. And now, given back when Alliances came out, our color pie was still being formed to a certain extent. But we said, really, that card really should have been a red card, not a green card. But now that we made a green version and a red version, I have people ask me all the time, when does the black version? When does the white version? When does the blue version? This is not a cycle. We have no plan on making those. Green was the color at the time it was made that did that. Red is the color at the time it was made that did that. Unless we change what color does that, it is not going to change from... I would not expect it. And these cards are both kind of problematic in that they let you get mana faster than they should. So, okay, next, Skirk Shaman. 1 red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Skirk Shaman can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or red creatures. So Skirk Shaman is Severed Legion, a black card. Let's see, Severed Legion. Some of these cards we color shifted were super famous, and some less so. So this is from Onslaught. Oh, so it's just a 2/2 creature with fear. Oh, so what we were trying to demonstrate here is that fear was a red ability, not a black ability. Note that we changed it from artifact creatures and black creatures to artifact creatures and red creatures. It's interesting to note that at some point we shifted fear into intimidate, which essentially did the same thing, meaning red can now get intimidate, and red got intimidate, it could do exactly this. So this was tipping our head, sort of intimidate coming, I guess. It's funny, it doesn't have fear on it, so that means that fear had gone away, but it doesn't have intimidate on it. It means intimidate hadn't come yet. So this was in between the fear and intimidate. So it's interesting. Okay, now let's move to green. So our final 9 color shifted cards. Okay, so first up is Essence Warden. So Essence Warden costs green. It's a 1/1 Elf Shaman. Whenever another creature comes into play, you gain 1 life. So Essence Warden is Soul Warden. So Soul Warden's a white card. And it's from... Where's it from? It is from... it from? Let's see. It's from Stronghold. It's from Tempest Block. So the idea here is it's not that white can't do this, white can do it. It just was a good card that people liked playing with. And like green cares about creatures, green is life gain. So this is just an example. Like one of the things we did when we were trying to make the color shifted cards was just find old Magic cards that made sense in the set that we could, with changing color words, and basic land types, make the color shift that we were doing. And so anyway, this felt like fun. Okay, next up, Fa Adia Seer. So this is a human shaman, 1/1 human shaman for 1 and a green. Tap, draw a card and reveal it. If it isn't a land, discard it. So this card is Sinbad from Arabian Nights. So Sinbad's flavor was Richard Garfield was making a top-down Sinbad he was a sailor from the Arabian Nights. And so the idea is, he sails off and finds new lands. So how do we represent a man who sails off and finds new lands? Well, what if he can draw you lands off the top of your library? The problem was that wasn't really a blue idea. I mean, blue does draw cards, but the specific land focus, blue is probably fourth or fifth in caring about lands. I mean, green is obviously number one, but blue doesn't really care about lands too much. It can change them from one into another basic land type, I guess, but there's not a lot of interactions with lands that blue does. So anyway, this felt like a natural evolution of, who would care about? So this is definitely in the camp of cards going in the color they should be, not us into the alternate color pie. Okay, next, Gaia's Anthem. 1 green enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. So this is Glorious Anthem, which is a white card, obvious. So Glorious Anthem first showed up in, what's that? So Crusade first showed up in Alpha, and Crusade was all white creatures get +1/+1. So then we decided we wanted to pump it, instead of pumping all white creatures. And so in a mono white deck, it pumped your whole team, although it also pumped any white creatures your opponent had. So we decided to make one that instead of pumping, like it only pumped your creatures, and it pumped all your creatures rather than just white creatures. And then instead of white, it costs 1 white. So anyway, Glorious Anthem has been a pretty popular card. Green also, green does power pumping as well. And I think in this set we said, well, what if playing into green sort of, web nature, that instead of white being the team pumping, green did team pumping. So we moved into green. Okay, next, Groundbreaker. So Groundbreaker costs green. It's a 6/1, trample haste. At end of turn, sacrifice Groundbreaker. So Groundbreaker is Ball Lightning, a red card from, I think, the Dark. Is it from the Dark? I'm pretty sure it's from the Dark. It is from the Dark. Ball Lightning is a pretty popular card. We do a lot of Ball Lightning variants. It's a fun card to do. So we're trying to figure out, okay, well, who would have it? And we're like, well, I think what we did in this world is we gave haste to green. Green did not have haste normally. It's funny, it now has haste. But at the time, green didn't have haste. So we gave haste to green. There was cards like Concordant Crossroads in early Magic that had it. But we had shifted away from haste being in green to haste being red. And we're like, well, if we're going to redo the color pie, green having speedy little creatures made sense. Obviously, down the road, we would... haste would first it was tertiary, then it was secondary, not secondary in green. So it is something you see in green from time to time. And so the idea of a creature that you attack that's a big 6/1. Anyway, we're like, this is kind of a fun card. What do we put this in green? It plays up the haste is green in this altered color pie. The other thing about this card is, I remember that they assigned the card to somebody, and something happened, and they couldn't get the art, and so Matt Cavada. At the last minute was asked, I believe, to do this card. And, he spent the proper time. It's a good art. But, it was late. Normally we give artists, 7 weeks to draw something. It was, late in the process. So they went to Matt, and they go, please. The art director said, please, can you draw us this? And so Matt did. Okay, next. Harmonize. Oh, the biggest problem child. 2 green sorcery, draw 3 cards. So Harmonize is obviously Concentrate. What's that? Concentrate is a blue card. What's that? Was Concentrate in? Concentrate was originally in Odyssey, it looks like. So anyway, it's just a blue draw spell. So we decided in this alternate color pie, what if card drawing represented growth rather than represented knowledge? So we made a variant of a card drawing spell that people played. The problem this has come into is that green really isn't supposed to draw cards unless it's tied to creatures or sometimes land. But it's not supposed to just draw cards without any restriction. But because this is so efficient, this has just become a staple. Like it's a staple in Commander. And the funny thing is that green's not really supposed to do this, but we made a card once because I decided it'd be fun to mess with the color pie. And now it's easy to draw cards in Commander. There are other ways to draw cards, obviously, in green. I mean, green is tied with black in second to be card drawing. But it's supposed to be tied to creature. So Harmonize really isn't supposed to be where you're, like, the fact that so many people play it says to me, oh, well, they don't want to jump through that hoop because they would just jump through the hoop if they could. So, okay, next. Healing Leaves. Green instant, choose one. Target player gains 3 life or prevent the next 3 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. So Healing Leaves is Healing Salve from Alpha. So in Alpha, there were the 5 boons. White had Healing Salve, blue had Ancestral Recall, so white is gain 3 life, prevent 3 damage. Blue is Ancestral Recall, which is draw 3 cards. Black was Dark Ritual, get 3 black mana. Red was Lightning Bolt, do 3 damage. And green was Giant Growth, gain +3/+3. White lost out on that. Ancestral Recall and Lightning Bolt and Dark Ritual we don't do anymore for power level reasons and some color pie reasons. Giant Growth we still do, although Giant Growth is strong and sees tournament play. Healing Salve, not so good. I don't know why we did it here. I mean, I think we thought it was cute that... I see. We had moved damage prevention into green. Damage redirection we put into black, but we moved damage prevention in green. So I think we were trying to show that, hey, green does damage prevention. That was a iconic damage prevention spell. I guess that's why we did that. Okay, next up, Hedge Troll. 2 and a green for a 2/2. Troll Cleric. Hedge Troll gets +1/+1 as long as you control planes. White regenerate Hedge Troll. Okay, so Hedge Troll is Sedge Troll from Alpha. Sedge Troll was a red card that had a black activation and required you to control a swamp. So, once again, we were allowed to change color words and basic land types to the appropriate color. In this case, it was in that case, it was an ally, and this is still an ally. Once again, note that regeneration we moved into white. That's not a green thing anymore. It's now a white thing. So you have to go to white to regenerate on a green card that normally would get regeneration. So this was a weird card. But also it becomes a 3/3 if you have planes. Here's the other thing that's funny. Back in the day, a 3/3 for 3 mana was like, oh, that's really strong. Nowadays, especially in green, not so much. So I don't know. Looking back from my designer's eye, I'm like, okay, this card not the greatest of designs. Okay, next, Keen Sense. So Keen Sense costs 1 green mana. It's an enchantment, an aura, enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So Keen Sense is Curiosity. What set is Curiosity? Curiosity was in... I'm pretty sure I made this card. In Exodus. Is that right? No, it was in... No, in Exodus. I did make Curiosity. I made Curiosity. I named Curiosity. But anyway, both blue and green have the Curiosity ability, which is it goes on creatures and says when it deals damage, you get to draw a card. And I think Curiosity was kind of a popular card. People like Curiosity. So like, okay, green can do it also. Why don't we just make it in green? One of the things to note that's funny is in Curiosity, in the original card in Exodus, it shows an injured Miri following a corrupt Krovax that's about to betray them. And in Planar Chaos, the flavor text of this is, Krovax sensed that Miri wasn't ready for the curse taking hold of her. Weeping in his heart, he fled. So a little thing that was going on here is we did some alternate reality. We took some legends and did them in different colors. So we did some what if stuff. The set has a lot of alternate reality, right? So we did some what if. So in this version, Miri, instead of Krovax becoming cursed, Miri becomes cursed. So we show cursed Miri as a black card, and we show not cursed Krovax as a white card. And the idea is in this version, it's Miri that suffers the fate of the cursing. So we were doing a little what if. And this card used this sense as we were mirroring the, Curiosity showed a certain moment in the original story. So we showed a different moment with the same characters in this. Okay, finally, we have Seal of Primordium. 1 in a green enchantment. Sacrifice Seal of Primordium. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So Seal of Primordium is... Where is it? Seal of Cleansing. So what's that had Seal of Cleansing? So we did a bunch of auras, seals. What's that? So... Seal of Cleansing is from Nemesis. Is that right? Did it first show up in Nemesis? Yeah, it's from Nemesis. So Nemesis had these seals where we did of spells that you cast as an enchantment, and then you could sacrifice to do it. So that is, you put it on play. We have to be careful with seals because they take away surprise and things that naturally you want to surprise in your hand, like destruction. We don't do too much of it anymore. But anyway, in between us making that, we had shifted disenchant into naturalize because we decided that we wanted green to be better at artifact destruction because green hitting artifacts was kind of core to its identity. So this card was just saying, oh, well, people like Seal of Cleansing. Let's just give them the correctly color shifted card now that naturalize. We're not... White can still destroy artifacts or enchantments. So it's not like white can still do disenchant. But anyway, green can also do that. So we shifted a color that also could do that. Anyway, guys, that is... in 2 podcasts, all 45 color shifted cards from Planar Chaos. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope this was fun. And whoever, I wish I had written down who recommended this on my blog, but this is for you, blog persons I forgot to write down the name of. Anyway, guys, if you have requests, by the way, I love getting requests for articles, for podcasts, for... anything I produce, really. So if you have ideas for other podcasts you want to hear, other articles you want to see, I make more podcasts than I write articles, so it's a little easier to do podcasts. But anyway, if you have any idea and things you want to see, I love to hear ideas. So this was an idea that I thought sounded fun, so I did it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. But I see I'm at my desk. So we all know what that means. It means it's the end of my drive to work. So instead of talking magic, it's time for me to be making magic. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.